Good evening, and welcome to the Rancho Cordova City Council meeting. I ask our city clerk to call the roll, please.
Councilmember Terry.
Here.
Councilmember Budge.
Here.
Councilmember Gatewood.
Here.
Vice Mayor Sander.
Here.
Mayor McGarvey.
Here. Thank you. And if you please give the meeting video recording and playback, please.
The meeting of the Rancho Cordova City Council will be cablecast on Metro Cable 14, the local government affairs channel on the Comcast Consolidated Communications and AT&T Uverse cable systems. The meeting is closed captioned and webcast at www.sacmetrocable.tv. Today's meeting will air Thursday, December 5th at 9 a.m. and Friday, December 6th at 6 p.m. A DVD copy is available for checkout from any library branch. A copy can also be ordered from the city clerk's department, and a webcast of this meeting will also be available on the city's website within 48 hours of adjournment of this meeting.
Very good, thank you. Well, we have a couple of things here. The Pledge of Allegiance, we're going to be led by Robert Sanger. And then for the invocation, we're going to just have a moment of silence. If you remain standing for about 1 minute on that. Thank you. Robert?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Very good, thank you. Okay, going on to item number 9, the presentations. Ask Stacy Delaney, please come up.
Good evening, Mayor and Councils. I'm Stacy Delaney, the Community Enhancement Analyst for the city. And this evening, we will be presenting ceremonial checks to several of the organizations that did receive grant funding this fiscal year. I invite you to come down and join these groups as they receive their ceremonial checks. The first check we're going to be presenting tonight is for the Folsom Cordova Unified School District's Career Choices and Changes program. This is a new 17-week course at Folsom Cordova Adult School, which provides educational opportunities to adults in Rancho Cordova who wish to transition to college and careers. The course guides learners through the process of making some of life's most important decisions and culminates in a research and actionable employment and lifestyle plan that students can implement immediately. Principal Rhonda Balmain is accepting the check for $19,150.
There was no one else that we could get to make you stand there.
That was a good one.
We had to get Maria standing up with a camera. Okay, all right.
The second check this evening is going to Habitat for Humanity of Greater Sacramento. The grant funding allows Habitat for Humanity to make significant, critical health and safety related repairs on at least 3 homes here in Rancho Cordova. Some of the example renovations include replacing leaking roofs and windows and making substantial accessibility and aging in place upgrades. Lane Himmelman, Director of Development for Habitat for Humanity, is accepting the check for $35,000. And the third check this evening is for Folsom Cordova Community Partnership and the continuation of their Youth Career Center. The partnership provides Rancho Cordova High School students with on-site youth career centers at both Cordova and Kenny High Schools. These youth career centers provide staff-assisted services to help students explore career pathways develop career plans and readiness skills, and connect workplace experience in the local business community through internships, job shadowing, and part-time employment. Executive Director Robert Sanger and Director of Youth and Employment Services Renee John are accepting the check for $40,000. The next check is for 916 Inc. and the continuation of their Find Your Voice creative writing workshops. Through a hands-on approach, a 12-session workshop series allows students to learn about the creative process through writing prompts and other exercises, where students are encouraged to engage deeply with words. 916 Inc. students collaborate closely with workshop facilitators, all working toward the common goal of a professionally published anthology of poetry and prose. Executive Director Ian Hadley is accepting the check for $47,795. And the last check this evening is being presented to the Cordova Community Council Foundation for the continuing operation of the Mill Station Arts and Culture Center, which we lovingly refer to as the MAC. So the MAC provides enhancements of arts, history, and cultural experiences for residents of Rancho Cordova and visitors alike. The MAC hosts multiple high-quality exhibits each year and provides a place for artists to display their art for sale. If you're looking for local art, stop by the MAC this Thursday through Sunday and check out the Winter Art Fest. Cheryl Gleason, the curator and event planner of the MAC, is the one accepting the check for $159,000. Thank you.
All right.
Yes.
Now, item 9.2, Russell, you have a new employee introduction.
Oh, yeah. Well, good evening, Mayor McGarvey and City Council members. Russ Ducharme, Neighborhood Services Manager. Tonight, I'm delighted to introduce you to our newest team member, Brittany Marskal. She's been with us for about 2 weeks. She's blending in well with our team and getting used to the city and all of our programs. She will be handling our day-to-day operations, and I'd like to give her a minute to introduce herself.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, and other city staff members. As Russ said, my name is Brittany Mariscal. I was hired as a Senior Code Enforcement Officer for Neighborhood Services. I have worked in code enforcement for the last 13 years, a couple years with the City of Sacramento, and then also a greater portion of time with the County of Sacramento. I have a lot of family and friends that live in Rancho Cordova. My babysitter lives here, so I spend a lot of time here. So I'm very happy to be here and happy to be part of the team.
Wonderful.
Very good. Babysitters, yes indeed, it's always handy. Item number 10, public comment. Citizens wishing to address the council for any matter not on the agenda may do so at this time by completing and submitting a speaker card to the city clerk. For items on the agenda, speakers will be called to the podium by the mayor on the point of the agenda where the item will be heard. Speakers are encouraged to keep comments to 3 minutes or less and to state name and community of residence. Under the provisions of the California Government Code, the City Council is prohibited from discussing or taking immediate action on any item not on the agenda unless it can be demonstrated to be an emergency nature or the need to take immediate action arose after the posting of the agenda. Do we have any cards?
I have one speaker card, Mita Kashat.
You're back again. This is
I'm
your
back.
second.
Good evening, Mayor and all council. I have been elected tonight as a spokesperson for about the 100 people in the American River Room who could not hear a word you said while we were in the meeting. And so I'm pleading with you to get some sort of a microphone or a system in there where when people are speaking, they can talk into the microphone. You all are in a horseshoe, and so you're talking to each other, but the spectators have no idea what you're saying. And I think if we had an individual microphone, it would keep more decorum in the meeting where there would not be so many people speaking out. So on behalf of your citizens, I would buy a microphone if you'd tell me what to buy, but we really would like to hear what you say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mita.
Oh, very good. And it's we'll have to talk to our IT people and see what they can do, huh? Council reports, Donald Terry.
Mayor McGarvey, I have a second speaker card that just came up.
Oh, okay.
Cheryl Gleason.
Didn't we just give you money? Is that not enough?
Came to talk about it.
Isn't it time to ask for more?
No.
Where's Shelley at? Shelley?
Council, Mayor McGarvey, Cyrus, I just wanted to take a moment to, one, thank all of you, but two, just make a public announcement of what an amazing year we have had at the MAC. We started out with Legos, which had our #1 grossing attendance of all. We had the best art from Portland. We had student art K through 12. It's been an amazing year. And I feel very privileged to be able to bring to the Rancho Cordova community the types of things, both history, art, and culture, and this amazing resource that's out there, and invite all of you for our last weekend at the MAC for 2019, which Stacy had mentioned is Winterfest, which is all local artists that all belong to the Rancho Cordova Arts Group. And we will have our reception on Thursday from 3 to 7, the art reception, open on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, 12 to 7. And come out and support your local art. And I would say that one of the largest highlights that we had this year was being open for Open Studios. And that really put Rancho Cordova on the arts map in the greater Sacramento area. We had so much visibility and doubled the amount of artists by opening the MAC. $13,000 was taken in for artists here in Rancho Cordova just in that weekend. So the opening of the MAC and the money and the dollars that you put into it are really making a difference to both those who come and enjoy the concerts and the movies, but also to the artists who live here in Rancho Cordova. So thank you all.
Remarkable.
That's all the speaker cards.
Anyone else in the audience that wishes to speak? All right, very good, thank you. Okay, council reports, Donald.
Thank you. I'll start with the thing that took up the most of my time since the last time we were together, which was the National League of Cities Conference in San Antonio. I attended my Community and Economic Development Committee. It was pretty fascinating. The main topic, regardless of what coast you lived on, whether you lived in a cold climate and a hot climate, was homelessness and housing everywhere. And the fascinating thing was, even in communities that you would consider very, very affordable, and they would describe themselves as very, very affordable, are still having a housing crisis. And talking about tools and ways of doing things. It was, I know, I want to say it was Roanoke, Virginia? Somebody stood up and said, why isn't there a way to use a housing voucher to finance a mortgage? Which there is. And most national banks will take that. The problem in California is it's not enough to buy a house. But in a lot of other communities where they've had stagnant home values, you actually could do that. But the number of communities that were saying that their residents, that the number one concern that they were having, besides maybe public safety, was homelessness. And they were very tied to each other in a lot of ways. But it was also fascinating how they were saying that every year in the last 20 years, they've gotten less resources than they had back in the day to address the same problem. So that seemed very, I mean, like, if you looked at the community and economic development, like when we go out and we do visits to other communities and things like that, and they're showing you ballparks and they're showing you, job creation centers and all these things. But whenever we get together and we just talk policy, everyone is saying this is the problem, yet there's really not a ton of examples of communities that have like figured out how to do this right. There was also, again, I want to say this was the second time I've seen it. I think, Cyrus, you said that you saw it in San Diego, was the redlining exhibit that they brought back that was in LA that they brought back, and they showed new maps of Texas and San Antonio. And to me, I thought it was actually something that would actually fit in well at the MAC at some point, because it's a traveling exhibit that we can actually order to have brought to other communities. But it talks about the history of racism and urban blight, and then the renewal, the urban renewal, and what that's done to displace current residents and a lot of other things, but just national policies that have prevented investments for decades upon decades within communities, especially of color. Another thing that I would comment on was that must have been the biggest convention space I've ever seen in my life.
We think.
And some of us just came from Indianapolis, where they had 1.2 million or something, and they were adding some more, and they also had a football stadium connected to it, and this still felt bigger than that. I want to say I heard upwards of 2 million square feet, and the hotel that was on top, they just finished in like the last 2 years, and they had actually built the convention center 5 years ago that as soon as they were done, they said wasn't big enough. So what they've done to attract hotels and conventions and a lot of other things really does get me to start thinking a lot more about that Sacramento really underdid it when they decided how much the space we were going to have this last time. And I know I've heard tons of people in the region telling me that, and I've seen some of these convention spaces and what they've started to, like, what they've done. But man, for a community that's, they have a basketball team, right? But they don't really have a lot of the other things besides that. They still have the Alamo Dome that really only hosts college football. I mean, they got UT of San Antonio. Like, that's...
What about the Spurs?
Well, no, I said they have basketball. They have that. Well, let me put it this way. We have a basketball team, and we don't have anywhere near the hotel space and the other things that they have brought in. I mean, the plan to do what they've done with the Riverwalk and everything, it was just really impressive to see a master plan community that still preserved very... I will still say the best line I heard was on a tour of the Alamo, and one of the tour guides said that they get this question often is, why did they put the Alamo downtown?
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, right? But the fact that they could preserve that, and still they turned a hospital into a hotel, and a lot of other real historic things that they've been able to preserve and still have that feel while still having a lot of modern amenities. It's just a very impressive city. I got to give kudos to my colleague over here who is also my son's soccer coach. For those who don't know, their soccer team went undefeated. Hail, sir. Undefeated. Had a nail biter at the end, won 3-2 in their last match, but they won every match, including beating the pants off of some kids in Folsom, which we don't want to let go by without mentioning. So it was a very fun year for my 8-year-old and a lot of his friends. One other thing I'll mention, there was a discussion, and I'm just going to bring it up because of what we were talking about, I think right before we left was there was a conversation or a workshop about from the National Apartment Association and how they were going, like their master plan of how to house more people. But one of the conversations came along was the effects of evictions and what that does. of the effects of evictions on the individual and on the community. And communities that had no fault evictions had higher rates of homelessness. They had higher rates of need of rapid rehousing. The instability that creates in holding a job and keeping a kid in. So it was a really fascinating look at the fact that in communities that allowed it still, what that was doing to other parts of the economy in destabilizing those people. So again, and we talked about that there are a lot of reasons why you want that as a tool, but what that's doing to the long-term economic outlook of your community was really, really fascinating.
And social health.
Yeah, yeah. So there was a lot of conversations about that, and I know, David, being mayor next year, the U.S. Conference of Mayors, I can tell you that has become, along with homelessness and housing, like the third thing that they talk about now is eviction effects in communities of color throughout the country. It's become a very big deal at the conference. And then the only other thing, and I didn't get to go to both of these things, but I just want to be able to, and I know some of you did, but I do just want to shout out to BJ and KP International. In the last month, for those of you who've done, I know we know about an ice rink, and that was really great, and it was really cold, and I was working, and so I couldn't get there anyways. But thank you so much to them for stepping up and doing that, and the city for helping cover some of those costs. But the other thing is, we had a circus here about 3 weeks ago. And it didn't get a lot of fanfare. I saw some flyers for it, but I do know I was leaving the post office and I wondered what the heck that thing was that they put out in that parking lot. I mean, he got a circus to come to town, a tent circus to come to town. And I don't know about you, but the only other time I've ever seen those anywhere around here is Sunrise Mall. So I thought that was really cool. And the fact that he's working so hard to draw people to this community, it's been a while since we've done a key to the city, but maybe that's something we need to think about. He has really transformed that shopping center in this community in so many good ways. So that's all I got.
All right, thank you. Okay, Linda?
So, so congratulations to city staff for the wonderful package of information that we all got in the mail last week. It was waiting when we came back from San Antonio. And Donald is absolutely right. Yes, it was dramatically cold on Wednesday morning, but congratulations to BJ, and hopefully he'll be able to make a little more ice. And congratulations to the community council who left for figuring out how to tailor the Christmas tree lighting last night to the circumstances of having too much rain to do a lot of the things that they would normally have done. It wasn't so cold last night, it was simply wet, but they did a great job, as always, and I know that all the little kids just had the best time with Santa Claus. It was really very nice. Donald is 100% correct about National League of Cities. It was very valuable for a lot of reasons. I did some interesting tours and went to some interesting breakout sessions. But the two things that stood out was an address by the author, Peter Kageyama. He wrote a book called For the Love of Cities, and he's written several other books. But Cyrus and I are sitting there texting each other because I have to say, and I know this sounds like bragging because I am, because there is so much in his book and in his talk that we are doing already in Rancho Cordova, and we have a right to be proud of that. He talks about the fact that there's no emotional love in fixing potholes, and it has to be done, but you also need to focus on the emotional love of living in your city. And talking about the fact that there is value in public expenditures beyond just the financial value of doing things like fixing potholes, socializing your city. For all of our wonderful residents who participate, like in our workshop, and the people who come to City Council, he called those co-creators of the city. Did you all know you are co-creators? Because you are. The civic engagement that we have focused on is helping us create the city that we all want to live in. And it's very important that we acknowledge that and celebrate that. he reminded us that better places beget better people, that we should have fun in City Hall, which we do, and that we should build infrastructure with heart. He says love is the best thing that we have, and we should apply that to creating our city. And from my perspective, we do that in Rancho Cordova. Donald and Cyrus and I went to see, in addition to the he forgot. In addition to having seen the biggest convention center that we've probably all ever seen, we went to see, without a doubt, the biggest children's museum we have already seen. Remember that we have 7,000 square feet across the street, across the parking lot here? Their children's museum is 90,000 square feet in 3 floors. And it sits on a, I don't know, something like 32 acres or something.
No,
And
that's Indianapolis.
Okay, but it's incredibly well-funded, but they work on it constantly, and they do a couple of things that we continue to see in all sorts of public buildings around the United States that are important, such as naming rights. At the Briscoe Art Museum, they named the staircase for somebody. Every time you walk into someplace, there should be somebody's name there, and it goes way beyond the Golden One Center or the Rayleigh Field, which has been renamed for Sutter Health or somebody. I do want to point out to Donald that things like the hotel where I stayed, the Palacio del Rio on the Riverwalk, was built in 1968 for Hemisphere. When they sort of started, they helped to transition San Antonio from just a really small historic town to a huge tourist attraction. And they have been tracking the power of those tourist dollars and the entertainment dollars for decades. And I have a book from 2003 and a book from 2006. One of them is the economic impact of San Antonio's creative industry, and the other one is the economic impact of San Antonio's hospitality industry. And I will be sharing these with city staff. It's things that we picked up on a study mission to San Antonio years ago. And I think that's the only thing I want to say about San Antonio. So I do need to ask that we adjourn this meeting in memory of another one of our wonderful residents whom we have lost. A lot of you will remember Ray Miller. And Ray Miller just happens to be the very first person that I met at Aerojet when I went to work on the 1st of July in 1985, because he ran the security office at Aerojet. And wonderful gentleman, participated in community council. I'm pretty sure he's one of the people who supplied a car for, who generally supplied a car for the homecoming parade, that kind of thing.
He was one of my original 4th of July committee volunteers
See?
20 years ago.
Yep.
Yeah.
So our best wishes to his family, and we need to adjourn in memory of Ray Miller.
I think he served on Corpac with us, didn't he, Bob?
Oh,
think so.
super.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
Garrett.
I'm very sad to hear about Ray. I actually knew him. Oh. All right. All-American Ice Rink was amazing. It was cold, and when you bring small children that get loose, always very entertaining. They actually had marshmallows with with chocolate chips in it, and my kids found out about that. And what you do is you add the marshmallows in your cup, then you cover it with hot chocolate, then you put whipped cream in it, and then what you have is an explosive bad child, loose for the rest of the day. So, yeah, yeah, full of sugar. So we went and did that. That was amazing. KP Plaza is an amazing treasure that Rancho needs to hold on to tight. And so we did that. And we came back because they had these professional girls and I asked my kids whether they wanted to skate, and my older boy is now mature enough to know that he doesn't want to fall in front of girls that know how to do stuff better than him, so he refused to skate. But then we came back later, and everyone was falling, and he's like, yep, now I'm in there. So him and his brother raced around the skating rink, and thank you for the staff for helping out with that.
Okay, but we really should assure people that it is safe for little kids because they've got these adorable.
Oh yeah, they got these little
dolphins
dolphins things you can hold on, and a
blue
little moose
things.
that you
Yeah.
can push the kids around in,
Yeah.
and even if
It's
you don't
better-
know how to skate.
It's better than the Lowe's buckets that we used when we
Yeah.
had the skating rink before.
I remember those buckets. And then even better than that was they have just latches on them. So it's not like you have to do the thing where you tighten up and have to cut off the kid's blood circulation. You can actually just latch it over, which makes, and the skates are this much thicker so that little kids can actually get around on them. So it was amazing because my sons felt like they were really starting to get it. And I was like, no, but that's good for you to try. And then of course, too much bravado makes them go full speed at walls. And so that was entertaining. Congratulations to the Cordova Community Council. Thank you, Shelley, for the amazing tree lighting. When we showed up, we knew it was a bad sign when Elsa and the crew was performing, and we kept looking down to see if the stage was lit. And we realized the stage wasn't lit. They were just in the thing singing Let It Snow as the rain is pouring down on top of them. Hilarious. And so my kids went and got popcorn, got to go jump on Santa's lap. They were having a great time. They got to go tease Elsa and, of course, Anna and the, what's the snowman? Olaf. Hey, I got it, Olaf. Congratulations to the Cordova Community Church Council. They actually got out with full calendars and handed out with all the events that are going on in Christmas in our area if you wanted to volunteer time. And so they actually really stepped out and were in the soggiest location possible because it drooped down and they were swimming, but it was still, you got it. And then that was the major stuff that we did. And congratulations, we got one of my favorite events is happening this weekend, the Christmas Mall. I know that Folsom Cordova Partnership will be there. I know the veteran community will be there, and we'll be doing lots of stuff for our community. Thank you.
All right, David.
I have a relatively brief report. Last time we met, I informed you that SACOG was doing what amounts to what would you call that? A Hail Mary pass of bureaucratic intent, in which we passed an MTP far in advance of when we had originally anticipated doing it, but we were able to meet all the deadlines, and we passed it last Monday, with the hope that the federal agencies and the state agencies could send us letters of support basically by Friday afternoon, which would be, I don't know what sort of analogy to be, miraculous is what my colleague Linda just said. That's probably good. It would be miraculous, given that it normally takes months and months to get this local transportation plan through those federal agencies and state agencies. And the incredible thing that happened, on Monday night that week, I reported to you, we're trying this. By Wednesday, we had them. By Wednesday. So, kudos to the SACOG staff for pulling that off. It potentially could have, I'll basically say, potentially could have wrecked transportation funding here in the Sacramento region for several years as that legally sorted itself out. We were not finding a lot of support actually from other aspects of the state government in helping us fix that. They thought it might be useful to have this problem to kick around between them and the feds. That would not have been useful for our purposes or any local government's purposes. So this Hail Mary was caught for the touchdown, and there's only one hurdle remaining, but that one is well in hand. So I think we have an MTP ahead of schedule, which allowed me to do something not many elected officials get to do. I put my signature on a document that was basically a spending plan for $30 billion. Oh. That's not something I anticipated doing because it should have been a next year activity, but we did it this year.
Not something you really want to rush either.
No. Luckily, we met all the deadlines, had all the public feedback and everything. We had enough time to do all of that. We just sort of, said, okay, we're gonna go now rather than wait a few months. So kudos to SACOG staff. It's good news for all of us. We got that done. I have seen the ice rink in operation. That is very impressive. So thank you, city staff, for supporting that. It is, I think, something that there's sort of a pent-up demand in Rancho Cordova because we've had one before. People are seemingly enjoying it again. The All-America Ice Rink, I think, is a nice branding for us. Good timing this year.
And it really is the biggest one in the region.
Yeah, and the fact that he's done the circus and the carnival there before at KP International Market gives us a feeling of what you can do with a public space. You know, and he's a private individual, private ownership, facilitating these things. I think that's, you know, any kind of event like that lifts the quality of life in our community, improves our image, just makes us a more attractive place to live. Should deserve our support, and we should think hard about how we can encourage more of that sort of activity. And then finally, Linda, your comments on Peter Katayama. I heard a talk from him, it's probably been 10 years ago, when the book came out, Love Your City. And a previous city manager and I nearly used that as like a theme for the year. We kicked it around actually at a council retreat. Should we officially use that? And the irony was, you know, Shelley has a copy of this book, I have a copy of this book, and a lot of the stuff in there was already lined up with our game plan at the time. And so we've continued on with that game plan of great things to do in you know, Rancho Cordova, and tap into that feeling that, you know, people have a love-like relationship with the place where they live, ideally. You know, you don't want them to hate their community, but it's not a word that we normally use in association with where we live. A lot of people just say, yeah, you know, I live in so-and-so. They don't say, I love the city I live in. So that's really something aspirational for us. And we should sort of measure what we do versus that goal. Are you getting people to engage in their community to the extent they love their community, the way you would a family member or a relative or a pet or, you know, anything else? That emotion is powerful. It exists, and if you get it flowing in your community, and people love your community, they will do things for that community. They won't sort of sit back and let things happen. They will defend it. They'll work for it. They'll donate to it. All those sorts of things, and those are the sorts of things we want people to do. We want them to volunteer. We want them to be engaged. So that's a great idea for how to focus what we do in terms of civic engagement.
He summed it up with the sentence, with the question, what do you want residents to feel?
Perfect. So thank you for mentioning that. Allowed me to have my little diatribe here on the side. But that's my report.
All right, thank you. You know, about a couple times ago when I was mayor, and BJ was still expanding, there was a gentleman from Korea who came and spoke to me as wanted to speak to me as mayor. Is your city really going to support him? I said, of course, we're supporting him now and now then, and we're supporting him now. But I can't imagine us not supporting BJ and the Coreana Plaza. He is one of those people who is very personal. He is someone who puts in a lot of time and money, but he does so many things for our city that it's unbelievable to think about not supporting him and not helping him. So that's been great. The All-America Ice Rink, that was fun. That was, and having him there, getting him into some of the pictures was kind of difficult because he didn't want to be in the pictures. Said, you got to be in the pictures, you know. So he was in some of the pictures too. And then with the Christmas tree, I'm glad that they lit it an hour early because people were leaving because it was raining harder and it was getting colder, and they wanted to have it work with as many people there as they could. So they moving it earlier like they did was really a good idea. But that was a beautiful tree, and I'm glad that they added that extra 10 feet to it and whatever. But it's a beautiful tree, so I'm glad we had that. I'm going to be finished with that. Cyrus?
My understanding is, Mr. Mayor, it could grow again next year.
That's right.
It's an expandable tree. It's got you got to buy another level.
It was awesome seeing our police force. It was also seeing our police force on the news trying to skate. Obviously, we're going to want to get some sort of lessons for them, so people know in Rancho that our cops aren't just woo. You know, couple that can skate. That would be good next time. Just one or two.
Tracy was kind of wondering about that when she fell backwards, but you know, it's she's okay now. She was there at the Christmas tree lighting. Yay. Okay, Cyrus.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Since Peter Katayama has been mentioned, I just wanted to also point out Three things that he said and during his talk were, a community should have passion, should have fun, and the members of the community should have love for the community. And as I was reflecting back on just the last few days, on last Wednesday morning, we started early in the morning with the ice rink opening. And that's really the fun aspect of it, that we've been able to really empower members of our community to do so. The same day on that Wednesday, the chief and I attended a Thanksgiving luncheon that Folsom Cordova Partnership annually holds, and this year they had it at Sun River Church. And that's really the heart, when you talk about the community and the heart that it has. And then, of course, last night, I just saw the passion and, just downpour, raining really hard, cold weather. And we had members of the community that had come out, and just heartwarming to see it. In fact, as I was standing by the city booth, I did have a resident who approached me and pointed out that they had moved to this community about 4 years ago, and how much they love it, and how much and they were wondering, say, how do you manage, what is Rancho Cordova doing to be able to do so many events, so many gatherings? And I had to talk to him and let mention about the partnerships that we have created, empowering the members of our community, the nonprofits, and our business community. So just this is truly a testament to the work we do holistically. So thank you and congratulations.
All right, very good. That's all I have. Thank you, Cyrus. Now, it is nice to hear from someone who hasn't been here very long, but when they got here, things were going really hot and still are. So, yeah, how do you do that? Well, it's the people involved in it. And just like the Capitol Air Show, you have 500 to 1,000 volunteers. We operate on volunteers. And a few paid staff. I mean, it's... Okay, onward to consent calendar items. Consent calendar items consist of matters deemed routine and non-controversial by staff, unless a member of the council wishes to pull an item for individual consideration. All items will be approved by one motion. Are there any items council wishes to pull?
Seeing none, I move approval of items 13.1 and 13.2.
Thank you. Have a second? Second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Gatewood?
Yes.
Councilmember Budge?
Yes.
Councilmember Terry?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Sander?
Aye.
Mayor McGarvey?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, then on to the consent public hearing items. We're going to pull the 14.2, and that's going to be continued. So we only have one item on the consent for public hearings, and
Mr. Mayor, on that item 14.2, I need to recuse myself as that property is on my street. So if we separate that as an action, that would be great.
Okay. I will move that we continue item 14.2 to a date certain. Adam? Anybody?
January 6th, 2020 is the date.
To January 6, 2020. We need a second.
Second.
okay, a motion and a second on that, and roll call, please.
Councilmember Gatewood?
Yes.
Councilmember Budge?
Yes.
Councilmember Terry?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Sander is recusing himself, and Mayor McGarvey.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Then we'll go on to 14.1. If anyone wishes to pull on that? If not, do we have any cards on this?
I do not have any
public
speaker cards.
Okay, then hearing none, have a motion and a second?
Move approval?
Did you open the public hearing?
Yes,
Okay.
and we got no one on that, so,
Okay, then I'll second it.
and roll call on that, please.
Councilmember Budge?
Yes.
Councilmember Gatewood?
Aye.
Councilmember Terry?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Sander?
Aye.
Mayor McGarvey?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, public hearing items, there are none tonight. Regular calendar items. Again, we're going to take 16.2, excuse me, and that will be continued to a future council meeting.
Yeah, at the request of the applicant, this item is being continued, so 16.2 is the
University
dormitory project.
Congrats. Okay.
Okay, then go on to the rest of the items in 16, regular calendar. Item 16.1, would you read that item, please?
The 2020 legislative priorities.
Very good, thank you. Maria,
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and council members. Maria Neested, Communications and Public Affairs Director for the city. Tonight, we're happy to be here to provide you with a 2019 annual legislative update and the 2020 legislative priorities. I'm here with our partners, our legislative partners, with Gonzalez and Son, Jason Gonzalez, and with Jen Covino from Simon and Company. Both are going to provide updates at the state and federal levels for legislation, and then I will provide you with a very brief update on our 2020 legislative priorities. And Jason's going to start us off with a state summary.
Thank you very much, Maria, and good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the council. As Maria mentioned, my name is Jason Gonzalez. I'm with the lobbying firm Joey Gonzalez and Son. I also have, we're a family firm. I have my brother Paul in the audience with me. He's here in case there's any difficult questions or just in general to keep me in line. But thank you very much again for the opportunity. It's an honor and privilege to represent your city in Sacramento, and it's one that comes with a lot of fast-moving topics, a lot of fast-moving challenges, and in this case, in this last year, it came with a new governor, and one that has hit the ground running. As you know, the governor gets elected in November, in this case, November of 2018, and has until January 10th to present his budget. And that's less than 60 days with the holidays in order to develop a state general fund budget. Governor Newsom, all in all, had released a budget that I think was consistent with what many of the campaign pledges and priorities were. It was a deeper dive, I would say, than most had anticipated. And in some respects, he had shocked some of us, and not the least of which was the proposal to withhold local governments' transportation funding if you fall out of compliance for housing. And Councilmember Terry it was interesting to note that no matter where you go, housing and homelessness is a priority. There was no shortage of housing and homelessness priorities in the legislature this last legislative session. Of the 3,033 bills, which I promise not to recap all of them, there was about 300 plus related to housing and homelessness, many of which received quite a bit of attention. SB 50, which the prior session was SB 827, and sought to preclude local governments from having height restrictions in and around transit development or transit-oriented development. Transit was defined any number of ways depending on which version of the bill as it moved forward. It's an effort by Senator Wiener. And that bill fortunately faced quite a bit of backlash and concern from local governments and was held in the Senate Appropriations Committee. Prior to it being held, Governor Newsom had not weighed in on that legislation. Shortly after it was held, Governor Newsom indicated publicly his support for many aspects of that legislation. As we oftentimes say in our firm, SB 50 may have died, but Senator Wiener did not, and it will be back. It will be back with any number of different amendments or versions of the bill. The governor, to that end, the governor was sworn in and, as I mentioned, hit the ground running, so to speak, and had an ambitious agenda, whether it was education, safe and reliable drinking water, environmental protections, the California DC struggle and between California and Washington. I'll leave that for you later. But of all those ambitious items, housing is the one that has been reported as still left over and one we anticipate having to deal with in the upcoming legislative session, because as previously mentioned, housing and homelessness is a national issue, but it's one that hits California arguably the hardest. In addition to the legislation on housing, just sticking with the housing theme, we do know that the governor's office, as well as the State Department of Finance, has been and continues to work on some type of regional housing needs assessment reform, RHNA. I think most have recognized that RHNA needs some reforms, and if you're going to have proposals that seek to withhold transportation funding, or I recall when former Senator Ducheney tried to withhold our motor vehicles license fee if you weren't in compliance with RHNA. Those ideas continue to percolate in Sacramento. The challenge I expect we will see is whether it's the administration. I met with the Department of General Services, which is now getting involved with HCD, the Department of Finance. They cannot talk about RHNA as a planning document. They talk about RHNA as a production standard. And with the RHNA numbers that are being allocated by the regional agencies to local agencies, that becomes very difficult. We have seen cities, examples where their RHNA number represents 25% of their entire housing inventory, and they're nearly built out. So it becomes very difficult to plan for those numbers, let alone have a development standard.
Impossible might be physically impossible might be the descriptor.
That may be the reality. Sacramento doesn't always accept realities, but that may be the reality. I recently had a conversation with one of the governor's staff members, and the conversation, and you oftentimes hear this, you guys need to build more housing. To which I said, us guys need to build more housing. You mean my clients, the cities? And I said, we don't build housing any more than we build cars. The private market builds the housing. We have communities that have 4,000 units shelf ready, and they built 196 units this year. And I mean, it's the reality of the market is what builds the housing. So just an example of what the challenges may be as the legislature and governor try to address housing and thereby homelessness. And part of making sure if they're going to address that protection of what we hold on to, we being mayors and council members and local agencies, is your local land use authority. And what may work in San Francisco, and both chairs of the housing committees, great legislators, but they're both from San Francisco, I would argue may not work in Rancho Cordova, and it probably will not work in LA County, where you have 20 cities in a 5-mile radius. So we have our work cut out for us as far as addressing housing and protecting local land use authority. And the other piece of that is, can we look at ways to incentivize local agencies that want to make the difficult decisions, whether it's rezoning land, commercial, retail, how do you make housing pencil out? All of our client cities, and your city included, receive less than 10% share of the property tax. It's hard to talk about rezoning retail or commercial development if the housing won't pencil out for the services that your residents expect and deserve. So we'll be in for a fun 2020. I'll try to wind it down, but with 2020 obviously being an election year, we have 3/4 of the state assembly, 60 of the 80 members are Democrats. All of those members will be up for re-election. We used to talk about supermajorities and 2/3, having 2/3 of the assembly as Democrats. We're now looking at 3/4. 54, we're looking at 60 versus 54. Same thing in the Senate, 3/4 of the Senate. There's one vacancy now because Senator Stone out of the Riverside area, a Republican, went to work for the Trump administration, but they're right on the cusp. 29 of the 40 senators are Democrats as well. So we have mega majorities. Half of those senators will be up for re-election, and election years always bring about calm, well thought out public policy discussions. Lastly, the state budget, there's been talk. I think Governor Brown anticipated each budget year towards the end of a potential downturn in the economy. The legislative analyst has projected a $7 billion budget surplus going forward. The state is in a fairly unique situation, unique compared to the Gray Davis days, where they have about a $15 billion rainy day fund, and revenues are anticipated to grow in the upcoming budget year. So we could be looking at a $26 billion surplus. Hopefully they don't spend $52 billion accordingly. So with that, I would be happy to answer any questions, but I would like to close with just, again, thank you. It's a privilege and honor to represent your city. Your management team does a fantastic job. They give us our marching orders in Sacramento, and without their leadership, we wouldn't be able to be effective. So I want to thank you, the mayor and council, as well as the management team for the time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone have some comments? Yes, David?
Just sort of a question. We're moving forward in Rancho Cordova and thinking about doing some priority setting that is like agency specific. So for example, Linda and I share some expertise with Regional Transit, our regional transit agency, and have had a punch list with them for a number of years now, and just sort of work down the punch list of, these are things we need to accomplish together. And having that sort of definitive, this is what we're aiming at, list is very helpful in that aspect, and we're going to try to extend that to other agencies. So I'm wondering, with our representation in the legislature, sort of senior on both sides of the aisle, but, former Councilman Cooley here is certainly of considerable import at the Capitol. Is that something you have seen other clients do with your firm, sort of have, this is a punch list of stuff we need done? Special exemptions or, considerations or things that would, benefit a city?
Absolutely. One example is we represent about 7 of the 10 or 12 cities the Speaker of the Assembly represents. It's fairly common, and I would say it's recommended to the extent there's commonality. Mr. Cooley, Assemblymember McCarthy, even Senator Nielsen, it's the other side of the aisle, but if they're hearing from their region, I think it's a great opportunity to band together. Oftentimes they hear the reverse. As you may recall, there was an effort for regional transit to be able to enact a property tax, and there was a little bit of blowback on that. So having the locals come together, I think, is critically important.
There was an effort last year, Green Means Go from SACOG, and it's part of the Air Resources Board mandate that we reduce greenhouse gases 19% in the SACOG region, the Sacramento area. It's almost impossible by the numbers to get there. It's an extremely heavy lift, much easier for other jurisdictions in the state to accomplish this, but for us, being inland California, very, very difficult. And the thought was, when ARB asked us to accept that, is that there would be some support from them and from the administration in moving towards that goal, which led to this Green Means Go initiative. Unfortunately, last year, we didn't have a lot of collaboration with other jurisdictions. It kind of came together at the last minute. This year, I think that initiative is still going to be there. We would all benefit from it because the dollars would go towards infill development, which is absolutely critical, for Sacramento going forward. Is that something you would recommend, we as a city join that sort of an effort?
To the extent it fits the mayor and council's priorities and there's support, obviously, from the mayor and council, absolutely. And I would recommend to SACOG getting that coalition assembled prior to, you're correct, last year, I think it surprised some folks, and consequently, it becomes much more difficult. So to the extent it's something that the region is supportive of and the SACOG entities are, I think it improves the chances of success.
Have you had any conversations with the SACOG lobbyist about that?
I have not to date. We did have some conversations during session last year when folks started just reacting rather than understanding.
Different firm this year, appointed about 2 months ago, I think.
Okay, I did not know they had made a change, but
We should connect those dots, I think.
I will do so. Yeah, thank you.
Very good. Linda, you have anything? Good. Well, the only thing I have is a thank you for the work you're doing for us. And kind of curious about have we already received, and I haven't looked at it yet, is the legislative platform for 2020?
Mayor, we're going to be going over that in just a few minutes.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Good evening, everybody. It is absolutely fantastic to be with you all here tonight in Rancho Cordova. So thank you to the mayor, the vice mayor, council members, and city manager Cyrus for having given me the opportunity to come visit you all on the ground here tonight. I'm here to give you a brief review of our intergovernmental affairs work on your behalf in Washington, D.C. And let me just say, it is heartwarming to come to a community that is discussing love. Unfortunately, back in the nation's capital, we are somewhat void and lacking of that spirit. And so it is a warm respite from it tonight that I have with you all here this evening. I am going to try to give you a very brief review across a number of different federal policy areas. And so throughout my presentation, I have included various pieces of legislation, the administration's regulatory actions, as well as federal grant opportunities for your consideration moving forward. But I will sort of give you a more high-level overview, and I just wanted to provide you with those different items for your consideration after the fact. I've given you just above, this is a list of key appointments within President Trump's executive branch. As we were sitting here this evening, we actually had a change. Senate voted to confirm a new energy secretary to replace Rick Perry. And so this is even out to date from this morning till this evening. But these are the folks in Washington, D.C. that make up key policymaking decisions across the executive branch. And so, as my colleague alluded to, one of the things we have been trying to work on your behalf is to establish the difference between the city of Rancho Cordova and the state of California in its relationship building with the Trump administration.
Well, that must be difficult.
We're trying. And as you can see over in the legislative branch, following the 2018 midterm elections, the Democrats gained control of the House of Representatives under the leadership of Speaker Pelosi. The Senate was retained by the Republicans under leadership of Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. And so we have divided government within the Congress, which has certainly complicated matters. My colleagues Silvana, David, Stephanie, Len, and I appreciate the opportunity to be able to work on your behalf and to function as part of a federal affairs team that includes your council, your city manager, Maria as our point of contact, who does a fantastic job working on your behalf. We have the opportunity to work with several other key department staff throughout the year, and we maintain close working relationships with your congressional delegation, including Congressman Barra, Senator Feinstein, and Senator Harris. Under Speaker Pelosi's direction, as you may be aware from the nightly news, House Democrats have launched multiple investigations of the administration and a formal impeachment inquiry into President Donald Trump. The House Intelligence Committee is wrapping up its hearings, and they are to provide a draft report to the House Judiciary Committee that may be released at any point in the days ahead. We expect House Judiciary Committee to then draft articles of impeachment, likely before the new year. After the House takes its action, if they vote to impeach, the Senate is expected to conduct its own trial. According to Senate Intelligence Committee Chairman Richard Burr of North Carolina, we can anticipate that that trial may last as long as 6 to 8 weeks. Why is that important for the purposes of local government? Well, there are 6 authorizing committees in the House of Representatives that have been involved in oversight activities related to the impeachment. For our purposes and our concerns, this means that there are a number of policymaking committees that are otherwise consumed in the impeachment for the time being. The House this year has been able to pursue a number of other bills focused on domestic policy changes. Their first bill, H.R. 1, focused on campaign finance, voting, and ethics laws. They've also been able to pass a number of bills related to prescription drug costs, climate resiliency, immigration, gun control, and equal rights for the LGBTQ community. Over in the Senate, Majority Leader Mitch McConnell has maintained a focus on appointments, judicial confirmations, the U.S.-Mexico-Canada trade agreement, and bills to reduce prescription drug prices. When we're looking ahead to 2020, as you may know, House and Senate time in session will be truncated, and so it provides us with a very limited runway in terms of what we're able to pass through legislation in the year ahead. Folks in DC foresee prescription drug prices and infrastructure as potential areas for collaboration between House Democrats, Senate Republicans, and the White House next year. We're entering the month of December without a full year 2020 budget. The federal fiscal year started on October 1st. President Trump recently signed a continuing resolution, which was a second stopgap measure to extend federal funding through Friday, December 20th. The House is due to go out of session a week from this Thursday, so they're coming back to DC from their Thanksgiving break today. They have these 2 weeks to reach final agreements on the full federal fiscal year funding. And if you look ahead at FY 2020 appropriations, I've given you a list of key programs that the city should be concerned with at the Department of Housing and Urban Development, as well as the U.S. Department of Transportation. And if you look at these two charts, you can see there are plus-ups available in both the House and Senate bills as we go forward into fiscal year 2020. One issue that these charts do not reflect is the fact that back in July, the Senate and House reached an agreement with the White House on budget caps under the Bipartisan Budget Act of 2019. And so those budget caps were actually established after the House had written most of its 10 spending bills for the year. And so going into the next 2 weeks, the House would actually need to cut some non-defense domestic discretionary spending from those 10 bills it had already passed. What does that mean? Well, hopefully we will avoid another federal government shutdown. If I had to look to Vegas on this, I don't think it's in the interest of any actors at this point in time to have another federal government shutdown. But we may have another continuing resolution before us. What does that mean for us? Well, all of the federal agencies back in Washington, D.C. are unable to put out their federal grant opportunities for the year. So we are looking at another year of being delayed, unfortunately, on that front. Looking at each of your city's policy priorities, as Councilmember Terry mentioned earlier, housing and homelessness, I think, is still one of the top issues facing most municipalities in America. The U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development and the U.S. Interagency Council on Homelessness have primary jurisdiction. Unfortunately, we have not seen a lot of progress on these issues this year. Secretary Carson over at HUD has pursued opportunities to increase our affordable housing stock through deregulation over the past year. And he's also undertaken a series of regulatory actions to promote self-sufficiency amongst those receiving public assistance. One item that's currently open right now, President Trump had recently established the White House Council on Eliminating Barriers to Affordable Housing, which is undertaking robust public engagement with state, local, and tribal leaders in the months ahead. They released a request for information on any federal, state, local, and tribal laws, regulations, and land use requirements that negatively impact the growth of affordable housing. And so that is a solicitation that is open through January. If the city would like to weigh in on that in official capacity, I would recommend it. Over the years, I know that you all have actually worked very closely with USICH Executive Director Matthew Doherty, who had been appointed by President Obama in 2015. We found out about 2 weeks ago that he had been asked by the White House to step down. And so we now have USICH Acting Executive Director Jasmine Hayes overseeing the operations of that agency for the time being. Over the past year, there have been several regulatory actions that HUD has taken. I've included a list for your review. I won't go through each of them right now, but many advocates will point to the disparate impact standard proposed rule that HUD had published as being a regulatory action that may place undue burden on those who are trying to prove discrimination in fair housing. And so that's something I'd like to highlight for you. Otherwise, the administration has also delayed implementation of the Affirmatively Furthering Fair Housing Act rule until October of 2020. Hopefully, we can avoid any further delay with that rule. Congress has been very busy on housing and homelessness. We have 3 major bills that have been put forward by members of the California congressional delegation. These 3 bills are each different. Each would provide an influx of federal resources into key existing programs. They are not trying to really reinvent the wheel here, but there are 2 new grants that may be established. The Fighting Homelessness with Housing and Services Act is a bicameral piece of legislation that was introduced by Senator Feinstein. That would create a new grant program specific for local governments seeking to address homelessness and connect that target population with wraparound services. Senator Harris and Chairwoman Maxine Waters of the House Financial Services Committee introduced the Ending Homelessness Act of 2019 earlier this year. It passed out of committee in the House, as was the case with the Housing and Infrastructure Act of 2019. These bills have good traction in the House of Representatives, but they are unlikely to move in the Senate. Unfortunately, in Washington, D.C., it seems as though the issue of affordable housing is perceived to be one of urban communities. And that is where we've lost some key support in the Senate. I think as more folks understand that this is an issue that affects suburban and rural communities alike, we may gain more traction. As we look ahead to 2020 and the presidential election, I do foresee Democratic candidates picking up some of these initiatives. I hope that President Trump and the administration will cross over and start addressing this issue through more proactive measures in the year ahead. If not, it's something he could tee up for first 100 days of his second term or first 100 days of another president's first term. I've included a number of grants for your consideration. One that I'd like to flag for you all, there's a few on here that are currently open at the top. One grant program that I think is particularly well suited to your priorities around senior housing would be the HUD Section 202 program, which provides capital for the construction or acquisition of property for supportive housing for very low-income elderly persons. And HUD is expected to put out its solicitation for this grant program as soon as they have a full year appropriation. So again, we're waiting on Congress and the White House to finalize the full year federal budget. As we talk about homelessness, of course, the issue of mental health treatment, substance abuse access is a key element of providing that population with services in certain cases. As you know, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services has primary oversight. And just over the past several months, the administration has been hard at work with the implementation of 3 previous bills, including CARA, the 21st Century CARES Act, and the Support for Patients and Communities Act. And so there have been a number of grants that are directed to the state of California. I would love to hear from you all in the weeks ahead about whether those grant dollars are getting down to the ground here to help support your efforts and support your law enforcement as they address these issues here on the ground. There's more than 100 bills that have been introduced in this Congress to improve mental health access. I've given you a list for your review. If there are any that stick out to you that you wish to weigh in on in the weeks and months ahead, please make it known to us. I won't run through each and every one of them, but this is a pretty good variety of the different issues they're trying to address. Moving on, opportunity zones are another item where the administration has been hard at work, focused on implementation of this new community development tool that was created by the Tax Cut and Jobs Act back in 2017. Throughout the year, Treasury has published several tranches, as they call them, of regulations for investors, the qualified opportunity funds themselves, which are the investment vehicles, also for community leaders and businesses who hope to utilize the tool. To date, more than 280 qualified opportunity funds have been established. They've announced their intent to raise more than $64 billion nationwide, and those investments can be directed toward a variety of different projects, redevelopment, commercial, housing. We've seen funds be established for specific types of housing purposes, whether it's affordable, market rate, student, veterans. And so chances are at this point in time, there is likely a fund that has been established for the purposes you are specifically concerned with. We have a list of those funds that is available for your reference at any time. As you know, Sacramento County had 15 designated census tracts, and there are several located within the city of Rancho Cordova. So glad to have one-on-one conversations with staff as well as any council members who choose to advocate on behalf of their opportunity zones within their jurisdiction. One important thing for you all to note as far as it comes to the administration's implementation of this incentive, President Trump established a council that would oversee the federal agency implementation of this. To date, they've identified 4 different work streams, including safe neighborhoods, entrepreneurship, education and workforce development, and economic development as their target priority areas. More than 180 federal grants have now been earmarked for priority consideration for projects that will serve residents of those opportunity zones. At the same time, there are a number of Democrats in Congress who take some issue with opportunity zones as a concept. There have been some bad media reports from the New York Times about opportunity zones being used basically to broker deals that would have effectively been created regardless of this tool. Moving on to immigration very quickly. As you know, it has been a priority for this administration to pursue reforms to our immigration system, revising programs and procedures through executive actions. And so back in 2017, President Trump announced the rescission of the DACA program for children who arrived in the United States and were given legal employment protection from the U.S. government. As you know, a number of lawsuits followed, and so now that case is up at the Supreme Court. And we expect a decision by the end of the term in June 2020. It's my assumption that that decision will come the last few days of the term at the very end of June 2020. Earlier this year, the Department of Homeland Security promulgated a final rule called inadmissibility on public charge grounds. For your purposes here, you should just be aware that any immigrants within your community who are seeking changes in status to their citizenship, their permanent residency, or their visas will now need to demonstrate whether or not they are a recipient or a likely recipient of public benefits over the past 36-month period. And one thing that has changed is that basically a person will be determined a public charge if they have received 12 months of benefits over that 3-year period. One thing we've learned, for many of these folks who rely on public assistance, they are likely recipients of more than one program. It may be SNAP and a HUD voucher. And so receipt of 2 benefits within 1 month will now count as 2 months. So we just want you to be aware of that. 3 judges actually blocked the implementation of this rule in October, and so we will await further judicial review. One thing that I asked for your urgency in addressing here, back in September 2019, and I discussed this with Cyrus and Maria earlier, the administration announced it would reduce the cap on refugees to 18,000 persons in fiscal year 2020. And I understand the city has a proud history of working with resettlement agencies and being a welcoming community for immigrants here. One thing you all should take note of, in September, President Trump had signed an executive order to increase state and local engagement around refugee resettlement, which sounds good. One issue at hand is that nonprofit partners now, in order to help continue resettling refugees as they have in the past, will now be required to provide a letter of support from both your governor and from the local government approving unconditional consent for refugee resettlement in the community. And so if the city wants to continue being a welcoming community and working with its nonprofit partners, I would ask you to coordinate with your nonprofit partners, various agencies. Those letters should be included with their grant applications to the Department of Health and Human Services and Department of State this month and the month of December. And so that's something, if you have any questions to follow up with me, we have draft letters of support readily available if that's of interest to you all.
That is an interesting development. We have certainly seen, I don't know, I'm thinking of the Afghan wave of refugees who arrived in August, perhaps, and 100 kids or so started school a month later. And our school district had no idea. You know, they were having 100 kids who didn't speak English show up. And they had no translation services available in district to deal with that.
Yep.
So it was a pretty challenging situation. And as I, you know, at the National League of Cities, talked to other jurisdictions that have a lot of immigrant communities, that's a very common theme. You know, that it just seems like this happens, and then you've got to somehow react, but it's not like planned or organized very well.
No, it's very decentralized. And so in some ways, as you're talking about having multiple jurisdictions come to the table on any issue, I think the fact that this affords you all the opportunity to engage with your partners now, it could be a good thing in that you can say we provide our unconditional consent for the resettlement. And by the way, while we are talking about this issue, let's talk about additional wraparound services that are actually afforded by the federal government for some of those challenges you're speaking to. And we actually have lists of different federal grants that are available to those community partners to provide some of those services, whether it's ESL. Sometimes there are issues with identity, especially if there are youth involved under the age of 18, if you can imagine. But it's a good time to sort of have a conversation as a whole. And so that's something I would recommend you all doing very soon, just because this was published at the end of September. It goes into effect within 60 days, and they have done it to coincide with the solicitation of grant dollars that would be going to the nonprofits that they have to apply for now. And so the letter would not necessarily have to be available from the city at the time of submission of the application, but if it's of interest to you, I would recommend providing it by then and then having these sort of further discussions with them. That's probably one of the most urgent things I have come to tell you about tonight. Any other questions on that? Just moving along the list, and I'll try to wrap this up very quickly, on transportation and infrastructure. So we entered 2020 with must-pass legislation. The FAST Act will expire next September. And so we have already seen the appropriate Senate committees taking actions moving forward with the America's Transportation Infrastructure Act of 2019. It's been passed out of committee. It's a bill that would authorize $287 million worth of federal funding off of the Highway Trust Fund, ignoring the mass transit account. And it includes the first ever climate title to promote resiliency in transportation investments. Senator Barrasso, the Republican chairman of the committee, is working with Senate Finance to address revenue solutions. We'll need 2 other committees within the Senate to draft and add their titles to this larger surface transportation bill. Meanwhile, over in the House of Representatives, Chairman DeFazio on the House Transportation Infrastructure Committee actually has total oversight over all surface transportation. He is now circulating a draft measure to the House Democratic Caucus right before the holiday. And we do expect a draft of that bill to be forthcoming in the weeks ahead. It may slip into the new year. One of the issues with impeachment and sort of how things get hung up in DC, the House Ways and Means Committee has oversight for identifying a revenue solution for that bill. They have been unable to make the time to get around to infrastructure because they've been caught up on the president's tax returns and the U.S.-Mexico-Canada trade agreement. So the hope is that they'll move beyond the trade agreement soon, be able to focus on this. And then Chairman DeFazio hopes to reconcile differences between the House and Senate bills before the late spring of 2020, given members of Congress a sufficient runway before the elections next November in case they need to adopt an increase of the federal gas tax. Over the past year, city staff have been very hard at work on a grant application for the U.S. Department of Transportation, seeking $16.8 million in support of the White Rock Road project here in Rancho Cordova. We've had the absolute pleasure of working with Albert and Rupa on staff over the past several months. And again, as Vice Mayor Sander was referring to, bringing different agencies and partners from the region to the table can be very helpful in advancing your local priorities. And so the application was due back in July of 2019. Fortunately and unfortunately, we found out a few weeks after that the city was to receive an additional $3 million of grant, non-federal grant assistance from the MPO. And one of the frustrations of that is when you submit a federal grant application to U.S. Department of Transportation, the career staff who oversee the peer reviews will take the application as submitted at the time for scoring purposes. And so we were unable to capture some of the benefit of that additional $3 million investment that the city has to leverage against its requested federal assistance. The good news is that we do enjoy really great support from Congressman Bera, from Senator Harris, and from Senator Feinstein. They have been able to move their priority projects working with this administration. Senator Feinstein actually enjoys a close working relationship with Secretary Chow, who oversees the U.S. Department of Transportation, from having worked together for many years in Washington, D.C. In the fall, we actually had the city manager, the vice mayor, and public works director come out to Washington, D.C. for a great series of meetings with U.S. DOT, with Congressman Bera himself, and several of the D.C. offices of the House and senators who represent you. We provided an update to DOT following those meetings regarding the additional match that became available subsequent to application submission. Unfortunately, the city ultimately was not selected for funding in this round. The department received more than 600 applications this year, requesting $11 billion worth of federal assistance across all 50 states. Ultimately, they had $900 million to award, and they selected 55 projects in 35 states, including 2 here in California. One of the things that was heartening about those awards in California, the city of Fresno to the south was a recipient of one of those grants. They actually had applied for that grant, I believe, 7 or 8 times before they received that award. And so the potential is actually there, and the department offers debriefing sessions starting in February 2020. And so we will want to make sure that the council, city manager, and public works staff, if you all want to participate in that debriefing, you're all more than welcome, and we'll set it up for you at a time that would be convenient for you. I think it'll be really interesting to learn more about their insights and feedback, and to see whether or not having that additional $3 million of local match would have made the difference there. As you know, there have been a number of different telecommunications issues that have occurred over the past few years, with the Federal Communications Commission taking different actions that many perceive are preempting local government's role in the deployment of 4G or 5G wireless. And so the city's been very active of weighing in support of the Accelerating Wireless Broadband Deployment by Empowering Local Communities Act by Representative Anna Eshoo of Southern California. Mayor McGarvey actually requested Congressman Bera's co-sponsorship of this bill. It's gained a lot of traction in the House, and so we are hoping maybe in the year ahead that we can have some congressional action to overturn the Federal Communication Commission's actions. There's another 2 recent activities that FCC pursued that might be of interest to you. I will breeze through them just in the interest of time. Finally, looking at climate resiliency as an issue, and thinking of the state of California and its role in working with the administration. So Secretary Pompeo announced that the Trump administration does plan to formally withdraw from the Paris Climate Agreement. A bipartisan coalition of 25 governors, including Governor Newsom, have pledged to uphold the agreement regardless of the administration's decision. We are seeing more bipartisan support for legislation to address climate resiliency in D.C. We saw a Senate bipartisan Climate Solutions Caucus be launched in recent weeks. The House Climate Solutions Caucus is doing its work to offer recommendations to leadership and other authorizing committees in the year ahead. What does this mean for jurisdictions in California? Well, disaster preparedness and mitigation activities are a very important area that's ripe for reform. We've seen tragedies here with the California wildfires. Elsewhere in the country, there have been devastating hurricane seasons. And so as we move forward, into 2020, I do think there are plenty of opportunities to highlight the concerns of the city with the administration. The administration, as you know, earlier this fall revoked California's Clean Air Act waiver authority that allows the state to establish its own emissions reduction standards for light-duty vehicles. And so one of the things that we have been advocating with the administration is the fact that in doing that, it affects the ability of local governments to pursue infrastructure investments in working with their metropolitan planning organizations on existing transportation projects. And so that's something we're keeping an eye on. We'll look forward to anything we can do to work on behalf of the city and the MPO jointly. If there are any concerns for local projects being impacted by the revocation of the Clean Air Act waiver, we're glad to talk about that in depth after the fact. That's one final thing. As we're looking at the year 2019 in review. Just really quickly, we had the City Council come out in March for meetings focused on the community center. We had City Council and staff attending meetings with several federal agencies specifically focused on the community center. And from those conversations, which I believe were very worthwhile, we were able to identify a number of different federal grant opportunities that might be available to support the community center. As you all move forward thinking about the Veterans Campus at Mayberry Air Force Base, I'd just like to point out that several of these different grants that are available for the community center could also be utilized for those purposes of creating a community space at the Air Force Base. And so we have some good crossover there. We were able to also provide some staffing assistance during the annual Cap to Cap trip in May 2019. Councilmember Terry served as leader of the community resources team, and under with the support of my colleague Silvana Caldera, who does an absolutely amazing job on the ground for us. They were able to go through 14 different meetings in a period of maybe 2 or 3 days. Councilmember Terry actually moderated a panel with the former Usage Executive Director, Matthew Doherty, focused on housing and homelessness. So it's great to see the city being highlighted for a lot of its thought leadership on these issues. And we're looking forward to getting the ball rolling on planning for 2020. I know that we're talking about having a kickoff conversation soon. Yes, next week. And so we'll look forward to seeing you all hopefully in Washington, D.C. As you know, back in D.C., we are able to advance a lot of your priorities through our work with the U.S. Conference of Mayors and the National League of Cities. We were able to attend the Conference of Mayors meeting with Mayor McGarvey back in June. We were actually just down in San Antonio for a day last week, and we work closely with their staff back in Washington, D.C. on a weekly or bi-weekly basis. So we'll look forward to hopefully seeing you in D.C. In the months ahead for those conferences. Just really quickly, we look forward to supporting your continued engagement with Congress, advocating for key bills that are of interest to you. We're here to facilitate relationship building with the administration. For 2020, we recommend that you focus on existing formula and discretionary grants to support your local projects. And please make us aware of any items of interest to you as soon as possible. Finally, the 2020 census is around the corner. For the city to fully capture the full amount of federal resources that it is due for all of its residents, we are glad to share any best practices from other communities undertaking robust public engagement around the census if you have any questions at all. Finally, here's some key dates for your reference. DNC will take place next July 13th through 16th in Milwaukee. The RNC will be held August 24th through 27th in Charlotte, North Carolina. And we have a presidential election on the horizon in November 2020. And finally, Congress has now released its floor calendar for the second session. Conference of Mayors, National League of Cities have provided their dates, so please let us know when we can expect you in Washington, D.C. We look forward to welcoming you back. And this is my contact information for anyone who wants to get in touch.
Very good. That's a lot of stuff, but it's only good. And thank from both of you to giving us information. Have any comments, questions? Linda.
Yeah, I have a comment and a couple of questions to Jen. One of the breakout sessions I saw in San Antonio was about small cells.
Yep.
And so their local electric utility who serves San Antonio and its environs, had worked with the cell carriers in that area, and they gave a very detailed prescription in how they use development standards to make sure that these things were an asset to the community and not a blight on the community. And they didn't do a PowerPoint, I mean, they didn't do a handout, but we all photographed all their slides to share with everybody. And they really, by working with the carriers, you know, people like Verizon and whatnot, they really developed something that is as close to invisible as possible.
Yep.
And that was a big asset. The two questions then, is any discussion of limiting or prohibiting teen vaping or flavored vaping still in play?
So the administration actually, the president had announced he was going to take action on flavored e-cigarette varieties. That has been put on pause for some reason, unbeknownst to us. But in the meantime, Congress is going and acting. There are several bills moving right now, both in the House and in the Senate. In the Senate, Majority Leader McConnell actually has introduced a bill, and so that means prospects are good for there actually being forward progress on it. I can actually send you a list of those bills that might be of interest to you. I think generally this is something we will hopefully see get done in the months ahead, if not at some point in 2020. We're seeing a lot of units of local government and state governments actually go ahead. I'm from Massachusetts originally. The governor there just banned sale of e-cigarettes altogether, but I do foresee a federal response. What happened is there were some concerns about the reported illnesses and deaths actually being caused by strains from marijuana vaping, which was getting conflated. And so the CDC is being very intentional in sort of separating the two issues out from one another. But
There was a good deal of messiness there at the CDC level from a scientist perspective. So I was looking to try to figure out what are they actually reporting. And it got in media sort of blown into this huge bubble, and it was kind of narrow what the actual comment was. And it's just lack of expertise in journalism, I would say, is how that happens. But then if you have policy actions on the big bubble, it's, you know, it kind of makes the CDC look bad.
yeah.
And you're probably aware we've all been asked locally to do something about it, so.
Absolutely. And
Just waiting.
if you want to see any local ordinances in the meantime, glad to provide those from other cities, as well as those best practices around small cells. Anytime you're looking for different municipal best practices, we've always got some resources available for you.
Super. So then, my last question has to do with the, I'm sorry, I don't remember what the title of it was, but you indicated people are looking for local comments on the effect of state and local regulations on the ability to construct more affordable housing.
Yes.
And will it really do any good if we write a letter that talks about CEQA and CEQA on the state level and the Corps of Engineers on the federal level?
I think it would be helpful for you to do both. So I would say it's twofold. First of all, I think public comment ought to address those opportunities to reduce existing barriers at the state and the federal level. I think across the board, as it relates to CEQA, there has been a desire to sync up both NEPA and CEQA. We've seen some work
Actually, we've been talking about that since 2004.
Yes.
And the previous undersecretary, who was an attorney, thought it was a really good idea. And then, of course, nothing happened.
No, well, so through the last surface transportation bill, there was a pilot that was created to afford the state on transportation and infrastructure projects to use that, but the state and the federal government couldn't come to an agreement on liabilities. And so, unfortunately, the bureaucracy got in the way there again. But I think it would be helpful for you all if you see those opportunities, whether it's and be as specific as possible when it comes to Army Corps or CEQA. The other thing I will say, for any mechanisms you have in place locally that you know to be helpful to preserving, whether it's affordable housing, I would also go on the defensive too in your public comments. If you think there might be some type of local ordinance that you've worked hard to preserve, I would just highlight the benefits of it to your community as well.
Okay. From my perspective, one of the big issues in trying to sync up CEQA and NEPA has to do with the mitigation standards. CEQA requires a much different kind of mitigation standards than that HEP analysis that they do under NEPA. So,
Yep.
you know, it's an issue. For neighborhoods that have been impacted by Corps of Engineer projects, trying to get replanting that comes anywhere close to what they had before under NEPA is virtually impossible. So
That's true. This administration is very willing to use its administrative flexibility, whether it's with the Army Corps around project permitting. And so now's a good time that if you are seeking that relief, to bring it up and put it in public comment. And then from there, it's also something we can use to reference your priorities, both with your members of Congress and with other federal agencies in the months ahead. So we're glad to draft the public comment on your behalf, working with the staff.
great. Thank you, Jen.
No, I would just thank you and Silvana for all of the work that you do for me in the city, in particular for Cap to Cap, which, yeah, it's like 6 months away and we're already starting. So thank you for your patience and support.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Garrett, do you have anything, or David, do you have any more?
Savannah was excellent. No matter how Donald uses her to make himself look better, Savannah is amazing.
She absolutely is. We're lucky to have her.
Yeah, last year I think we had 3, well, me, Garrett, and our deputy city manager all on community resources. So yeah, we cast a big net.
She was hailing 3 cabs while yelling at one of the senators and rearranging our appointment all at the same time. And then she got Donald some water because he was being
Hyperactive.
right. He's like, I need some water and something. I need something to eat. Okay, well, here's something in my purse. Here's a snack and some water.
We are a full-service team. If you all need vitamins, Advil, we're there for it.
Or granola bars and bananas that they have in their purses. I'm not kidding.
Cyrus?
No, I think all I wanted to say, I just wanted to thank both Jason and Jen for being here tonight. It's been a great, both have been great resources to the city, and we've been able to stay on top of issues both at the state and federal level. So I appreciate the work, and thank you, Maria, for also being our primary point of contact on these issues. So we all feel very well informed on, and we feel very current on the issues. So thank you for all you do.
Thank you,
Definitely
Cyrus.
thank you, yes.
Council. So this team makes it very easy, especially when they provide snacks, which is very key. But yeah, I'd like to thank Anthony, Jason, Paul, Jen, Silvana, David, the whole team for supporting the city and doing such great work. So we've provided you, council, with the first part of this. The second part is pretty brief. We want to present to you the legislative platform and projects for possible federal funding. This is something that we do on an annual basis. And as you know, it goes into a publication that we then use to advocate on behalf of the city. So in your council packet, there are 2 things. The first is attachment 1, which provides a list of questions by which we determine the projects for federal funding. Attachment 2 includes the recommended projects that are based on this criteria, as well as a summary of those projects that we'll be pursuing in 2020. My thanks to the Public Works team and the Community Development team they're the ones who are primarily involved in this. Many of these projects will seem very familiar to you. The changes that have been made from last year to this year have primarily been to costs and some progress that has been made on Zinfandel Complex. So there's not a whole lot of change from last year. The second one that I wanted to bring to your attention is attachment 3, which shows the city's proposed 2020 legislative platform. As you know, this is viewed as a fluid statement of the priorities, and it empowers the staff to make timely and impactful decisions on matters of state and federal legislation as well as budget issues. We work closely with each department to determine what these priorities are, and we revise language from each year. For each year. Last year, we had a number of changes, and we went through those with a fine-tooth comb with you. This year, very easy. There were no changes from the team, so our platform is essentially the same as we had last year. So at this point, wanted to find out if you wanted to discuss any of the information before you, provide direction or approval.
No.
Is this an action item?
Yeah.
Yeah, we need to. I'll move approval.
Second.
Okay, we have motion and a second on this. Have a roll call, please.
Councilmember Budge.
Yes.
Councilmember Terry.
Aye.
Councilmember Gatewood. Vice Mayor Sander. Mayor McGarvey.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, going on to next item on agenda, 16.3. Would you announce the subject, please?
The subject is the selection of the 2020 mayor and vice mayor.
We have recommendations.
I will move approval of David Sander as the mayor for 2020.
Second?
Councilmember Budge.
Yes.
Councilmember Terry.
Aye.
Councilmember Gatewood.
Yep.
Vice Mayor Sander.
Do I have to accept?
Yes.
Aye.
Mayor McGarvey.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. And for the vice mayor?
Only
Banded that one.
he couldn't do it. We traded because he was too busy.
I remember. Well, I wasn't here for it, but
Well, it pains me, but
congratulations.
thank you. I would like to move Garrett Gatewood as vice mayor for the year 2020.
I'd like to make a hostile motion. Second?
That's my friend.
That's right.
Councilmember Budge.
Yes.
Councilmember Terry.
Aye.
Councilmember Gatewood.
Yep.
Vice Mayor Sander. Mayor McGarvey.
Aye.
Thank you.
Very excited. I can't wait to get my new pin.
You knew what? Oh.
Oh,
Oh, that one, yes.
I don't have one of those. You guys all have one. I'm excited to get the vice mayor badge. Yeah, the name tag.
Yeah, okay.
Exciting.
We don't get badges.
Well, you
Or
turn
pins.
upside down so you know who you are, though.
There was a discussion when we incorporated by First Mayor Dave Roberts about giving us badges. Because apparently there was an old school tradition of city council members having police-like badges. And the,
That never got abused.
exactly, and the comment from the.
Chris,
from
can I
the
get that?
Sheriff's Department at the time was, well,
Different.
we could, Dave did.
He did.
But the rest of us, and he said, well, we could, but it's not advised. I don't know if that practice is enforced anywhere anymore, but that was sort of historically interesting. Not sure exactly what we
Only
would,
New York.
what we would do with such a
Well, we got those
badge.
red coats, though, that has police on one side and the name of the city council on the other. Yeah, that, yeah. And Linda got one, too. Yeah.
Well, if mine didn't have my name on it, I would give it to you. It will fit you.
You know, we had a chance to get City Year here, and we would have gotten some very cool yellow jackets. I'm just saying, if you haven't been to their dinners, but it's pretty pricey programming. Yellow, I'll show them to you.
Yellow jackets.
All right. Exciting.
KJ got one of those his last year as mayor. That was one of his crowning achievements.
Well, I'm going to go on to the next item. Ask City Council if they have any requests for future agenda items.
Nothing new,
Nothing?
but I did want to just ask, do we have an idea of when we might talk about a smoking ordinance again? Is that in the near future? Are we talking next year, probably by now? Early next year?
Very early next year.
Okay.
We're very close.
Okay. I wouldn't have thought about it until we got the update about USDA and everything, but I didn't know that had gotten stalled either. So.
Well, then.
That was one of the things, yeah.
Not seeing any requests for future agenda items, we're going on to adjournment. And we're going to adjourn the meeting tonight in memory of Ray Miller. Meeting is adjourned.